om live te gaan. Morning guys, Romana here from Bonsai with Romana. Hope you guys had an awesome week. Sorry for that slip up. Busy demoing the video to Ben-Herman, and then all of a sudden it was 10 o'clock. So what I'll do today in the live stream is I will be having an interview with Ben-Herman, and after that I'll do a short demo on a juniper. So let's just watch the intro video, and after that I'll introduce Ben-Herman and chat with him for about 15 minutes. So let's watch the video. Hi Ben-Herman, how are you?
The video is awesome with the children's stuff in the background there.
Yes, no, you added it in the video that you sent through, so I thought I might as well put it in.
That was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
How's
think
it going?
sometimes we divide ourselves into our professional work, our hobbies, and our personal lives. And I think just adding everything together just gives a bit more personality to a person.
Oh, that's awesome. We try and juggle with family life.
Yes, yeah. And it's not all separate because it all comes through to the work.
Yeah, and sometimes the bonsai have to be on the back burner.
Yes, no, definitely. I just wanted to find out quickly before we start. I just wanted to find out where you started with bonsai and how your interest in bonsai started developing.
Uh, I I love reading, and I started reading about the Japanese culture. A lot of reference went to bonsais and bonsai gardens and the Zen gardens, and
Okay.
I was walking through a nursery in Houston, and I saw these little bonsai trees, and I grabbed one and I started reading up it. It was about 7 years ago, or 7 seasons, and from there on, it's just became an addiction. I can't play golf. Doesn't work for me. So the bonsai is the best thing afterwards.
Okay. No, that's quite interesting. I was expecting something like I was watching Karate Kid and I saw the bonsai in the background. Because I,
Oh yeah.
cause I think that's where a lot of guys started off. But
It's
yeah.
the culture. The culture drew me. Is the Japanese have they've for old things. So they've
Okay.
got a passion in life and a respect for old things, and like have you seen those Zen gardens where they've got the pools with the rocks in them and the
Yes.
sands?
Yes.
So those things fascinated me, and the bonsais was also always a feature in me, and that's actually what drew me and started getting me into the bonsai.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's also something that's because as soon as I started working on bonsai, there was a time when I still lived with my parents that I drank green tea. I ate noodles with
Yeah.
chopsticks, and that was all just because I just indulged myself with the culture. It was just I wanted to dive deeper in. So yeah, so I
Yeah,
think it's
it's crazy.
yeah.
Let's hear what's this first thing that drew you? That drew you to the green tea?
Oh, the green. It was just something I saw on one of the videos that Mr. Miyagi did. So for me, Karate Kid was a big inspiration.
I think the hands
Yeah.
down.
So I just want to say that.
At the top of my movie list too.
Okay.
Good taste, good taste.
Okay. That's good to hear. Just want to say green tea is not the best thing to drink. It's almost like laxative.
Yeah, yeah. I'll keep the normal teas.
Yes. So what's the species for you to work on? Because I know there's where you are currently. So you in the Dorings. So what species do you work with, and what works well in that region?
You okay? From us to up to Paul, or you go over the mountain, eh?
Yes.
You've got we're a bit earlier in the season than Paul and to towards the coast.
Okay.
And we've also got, but we don't have the sea breezes, so it's a lot drier weather. So in the Dorings where I live,
Yes.
is a grape valley, and then Worcester, Rawsonville, and those areas are wine grapes. So that's the different climates that we have,
Okay.
agriculturally. Excuse my
Okay.
English. But most species do survive here and thrive here, and for conifers and pines, especially pines.
Okay.
Although I only have 2 black pines in my collection now, I've dug the rest, and I'm experimenting with stone pines at the moment.
Okay. No, I've also experimented with stone
Most
pines.
species, we get a lot of digs are from here, so we get a lot of wild olives.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. So I have a photo of you, a wild olive that you sent through. Uh, can you just tell us a bit more
Yeah,
about the tree?
that tree was that tree was bought in auction. That was about 2 years ago. I can't remember who the previous owner was.
Okay.
So it's been with me for 2 seasons. I presume it's either been dug or grafted, but I think that would have been dug. And it's one of my trees. The reason why I like it so much is because it's very, very good, well proportioned,
Okay.
the pot and the whole composition.
Okay. It's quite a nice tree, I must say. It looks nice in the pot.
Thanks. It was in a growing pot when I got it, and that pot comes from, I think, Anthony and them,
Okay. Oh,
up in Willow Bonsai.
okay. That's Then talk about the trees and the experimenting with different species. You mentioned black pines. That's something that I don't have in my collection yet because I personally feel they're too expensive to buy. But how many trees do you currently have?
I've had 70, and I think I'm down to 50 now, and I'm trying
Okay.
to actually start um, getting a garden. Because as you've seen on the videos, my garden is I don't have that much space, so I'm pretty worried that I'll clog the thing up. I have a tendency of grabbing trees that I shouldn't, but I think all bonsaiers have that problem. And what was that? And also the cultivation of it. I decided to rather focus on normal trees than try and cultivate them.
Okay.
On your point on the black pines being expensive, no?
Yes.
That's why I started experimenting with stone pines.
Yes.
So in the valley over here is I keep on looking when I'm driving around in Cape Town because I've got like one stone pine here on a hill,
Okay.
and I've managed to dig pines, and they actually thriving at the moment in this climate because they come from here.
Okay.
So if the experiments work out, I'll definitely be doing stone pines, which I can dig, and I can get some natural age in there, than paying too much for black pines.
Yeah. So I've bought a couple of bigger stone pines. There's a nursery in Stellenbosch, and what I found is as soon as you cut them, they start growing juvenile growth. Have you experienced that?
This is my first season that I've had them,
Okay.
and I'm still experimenting. So you've piqued my interest about growth and what it should look like, and I think I'm going to say yes, because the moment I treated it as a black pine, it started. What's the English word for back budding?
Yes.
Profusely, but it's all like little
Shorter.
short.
Yes.
It looks good.
Yes.
Not sure I'm going to handle it. So I've been handling it like a black pine. I've had this response, and if you what was your experience so far with the thing?
Okay, so my experience was basic. So as soon as I trimmed it back, it started shooting juvenile growth. And
Yeah.
what happens then on the next season, it starts growing. So now you have short needles and these long green needles, which are the mature growth. So it almost looks like cat whiskers on the tree. Yeah. So I don't know if
I've had, I'll actually send you photos of the ones I have, because what you're describing is precisely
yeah,
what I'm seeing.
yeah,
So it's going to be interesting collaborating with you and seeing listening. But we've done the work of collecting these trees in the wild.
yes,
We've treated them with like a black pine,
yeah,
and now what we do with that response
yeah,
afterwards next step is I'm at the moment I don't know if you're having the same thing, but I'm waiting for my needles to harden.
yes,
So my black pines, they've already hardened. I've done my pruning on my black pines already, and I've been holding back on the stone pines, because I'm still seeing a lot of really bright green on there. So it doesn't feel as if it's matured yet. So I've actually been thinking, might this not be a single flush pine, because um, those new growth, if it
yes.
doesn't harden by winter, it's actually going to be a dead branch next year. So then single flush.
Yes. So I've trimmed them back. I trimmed them about twice within this growing season, and they do bud back, but they don't formal buds or the candles. They grow with the growth opening up, so there's no candle to defoliate or to cut back to. So I think I might experiment on the pruning side. So doing it at a different in a different month, perhaps different time or a way of doing it, because cutting it definitely pushes back juvenile growth. And what I've also heard is my one cousin is also experimenting with stone pines, and he said that as soon as you plant them up, keep them in full sun, the mature growth tends to grow better than with partly shaded trees.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So where's your cousin? Your cousin?
Oh, he's also based in Stellenbosch, but he's closer to Somerset side. So it's about 5 kilometers difference. So I don't know how that impacts the temperature, but I'm definitely working with him to see what works better.
You know, I'll also keep you updated. I'm gonna personally, I'll be checking if my growth hardens off, and I'll see if there's any candles or stuff that I can use. And then if that doesn't work, I'll probably try and treat it as a single flush next season,
Yeah.
and I'll be twisting off the what do you call it, the candles,
Yes.
instead of decandling everything.
Okay.
So, but hopefully, I think we should start sending. We should start a support group.
Yeah,
Stone
definitely.
Pine implementation.
Yeah, we can experiment with that. Not a problem. Yeah. So
Definitely, we should use the trees that's available to us.
definitely, definitely, because I think because they grow nice, and I've actually styled one about 3 months ago. it's taken its position. It's hardened off. I took the wire off, and they grow fast. They actually get wire bite if you leave them too long.
I must say with the ones I've been treating them very roughly. Two of them's been blown out of their pots,
Oh wow!
and I've had no stop in the growth. So far it's not been the same experience that I've had with black pines. I've lost half my black pines because of repotting when I didn't in the beginning when I didn't know how to treat the roots. But I've been handling them in no particular with no softness, and it's been growing like crazy all the way.
Yes.
It's an
No.
awesome species so far.
Yeah. No. Definitely. So as I'm speaking now, I'm just listening to what you're saying, and it sounds like you spend a lot of time with your trees. So how often do you work on your trees? Because it sounds like you in the bonsai garden too.
It's I read a lot.
Sorry, let me.
Uh,
Is that on my side? Yeah.
oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
No, all
Did I
good.
do anything? What's going on?
Yeah.
No, Romano, no. I read a lot, so I like to absorb information. I
Okay.
do tend to spend a lot of time reading, and then especially I've normally I stopped even I don't do runs and stuff. I carry trees around.
Okay.
It keeps me fit.
Okay.
So I do spend on average I spend an hour and a half a day in the garden
Okay.
trying to end up and the last year or 2 years has been actually been a big learning curve for me with I don't know if you follow Ryan Neal with
Yes. No,
Bonsai
I
for
do follow
Ryan.
him.
So what the best word is. Let's see. It's empowered me a lot over the last year and a half. What's what's also apologies. What's also helped me is actually
Oh, so it looks like Herman's video is frozen. As soon as he comes back, we will continue with that interview. Sorry, that's just something that we have no control over. He's all the way in the Dorings, and you did mention that they have been problems with their internet connection. Back.
sorry.
There we go. Hey.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. That's one of the things.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get my camera good here.
Yeah.
Listen, where did you lose me?
You were still talking about your passion for bonsai and how it was kept up by watching or reading. Sorry, Ryan Neal's.
Yeah, Ryan
Yes.
Neal. Ryan Neal, but Ryan Neal was definitely a real upper over the last year and a half.
Okay.
And then we moved into we had twins back, and we moved into a new house around about the same time.
Okay.
So financially, I couldn't buy really buy trees, a lot of equipment with all these new changes, and it forced me to actually spend time just keeping trees healthy and maintaining it and pruning it, and that's also been what I'm seeing at the moment is with every time I wire at the moment, my trees look pretty. It's actually because I've been pruning correctly, not because I've been wiring it.
Okay.
So I do spend a lot of time in my garden to make
Okay.
the question a lot shorter.
Then just the last thing, because I see we're running on 20 minutes now. I don't want to keep you up much longer. Don't know if you have a busy day. I just wanted to find out what other things you're busy with. You working on your own trees, but you're also busy on the organization side, like with Saba and Crab and the Worcester Club. So how are you juggling all that, and how do you get time for that?
I it looks like I'm like the movie The Yes Man.
Okay.
I tend to say yes to too many things. So busy, but at the end of the day, I think I like being busy.
Okay.
So with with the Worcester Club is that's the one closest to my heart. So that's been up for I think 3 or 4 years. So the club itself has actually been around for a long time. We only sparked it up again, and when we talk about the CW club, it's actually the registration plates on the cars is
Yes.
CW.
Okay.
So that's where the name comes from, and it was just we started it again because of a need. We are Boland, we are sister club. So we joined Boland first, and then we started talking and saying, listen, here, there's actually people in Worcester that we know about that we can join up, and rather than trying individually to go do a 2-hour drive every Saturday,
Yes.
try and get people and start forming a bond over here. So that's how the Rooster Club started, and we're I think 7 or 8 members, paid up members, and we've got a lot of guys that's also interested and busy involved in the club, other than the 8.
Okay.
You asked me about the WhatsApp group or the activity of the club during the lockdown, eh?
Yes. Yes, I did. Not now, but in the
So
email I sent.
say again.
Not now, but on the email I sent.
Well, I remember. You see, I do read. I remember. I read the question.
Yeah, I
So
think
no,
that was that was question number
with
10, but yeah. You're not
so
getting.
start with that. No? Uh, uh, on the crab side, I've started as treasurer.
Yes.
We haven't had a lot of we haven't had we've had one meeting so far, but the lockdown messed up the meetings a bit. So I'm with, on committee, enjoying it a lot. On Saba at the moment, I'm president, and huge sadness because of the cancelled event on Durban because of the lockdown. So I was actually looking out. Do you know who should have been in Durban?
Yeah.
But the cancellation of
Yes.
the
Yes.
event. So that's quite sad. That was one of my good calendars. But Saba, Crab, and the Booster Club keeps me updated with bonsai information. It's like a pool of experience. So I don't know how do you say this? I'm struggling. I'm running out of the English words.
Don't worry, we'll end shortly.
You would ask me another question. I'll come back to that point.
Okay. So you mentioned the email that I sent regarding going full with bonsai. So has there been any discussions within Saba or Crab or in any organization just to have a bit more interaction with bonsai enthusiasts? Because I think what happened now with this lockdown is a lot of guys are stuck at home. We started a WhatsApp group in our club where we're sending photos of videos and advice back and forth. But I think it does go trees. So, has there been any discussions on that?
Yes, you're almost playing into my hand at the moment. So with Saba, one of the things we're actually proud of, and we're busy working on it at the moment. Uh, when we um, when we asked the question last year about what do you want Saba to do for you, we had a lot of responses saying, listen here, the website is part of the face of Saba.
Yes.
We should try and promote Saba better through it, and we should occasions in our effectiveness.
Yes.
So over the last since the AGM, we've been working on and had consultations about building up the website.
Okay.
We're not refreshing anything. We're building a new one. There was certain outcomes that we said, listen, you have to we have to have this, and one is obviously it needs to look good and represent the the South African bonsais. And then it had to have functionality. So we're trying to we're looking at voting capability, streaming capabilities, and then also automated communications to promote our country's bonsai better and to our members. And that's this what Saba doing at the moment. So that's still hot on the table at the moment. So we're around about in the middle of the process there. So you'll see a new website coming in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay. Oh, that's very good. It's nice to know about that because I've been on the website and it is difficult to find information on there. But yeah,
I know.
I'm very glad.
The information particularly is how do we present it? How do we make it user friendly? I think one of the other stuff that we were talking about was also accessibility and needing the website to be able to run on different medias or forms of media. So you will be able to use see it on a phone, on a phone, on a tablet, on a normal laptop.
Yes.
So we are currently in the middle of that, and I'm actually quite excited. And but that should be finished in the next 2 to 3 months.
Ben, I just looked at the clock now. It looks like we're 27 minutes into the stream. So thank you very much for taking the time to do the interview with me. It actually didn't feel that long.
I've been nervous.
Oh,
it's an interesting experience.
Okay. No, is it the first interview that you've done with your current positions, or have you done any other interviews?
No, normally the interview feels this feels different. I actually do Zoom and the MS Teams or with my run of work I do conferencing. Different. I think I'm normally in the role that you find yourself and asking the questions. I'm normally not sitting and having to answer them. So it's a different experience.
Okay. No, I'm glad I could be your first in that regards. You. So thank you very much, and I hope to hear from you again.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was Ben-Herman. So I just want to end the meeting on my side. Sorry. Whoop. Oh, there we go. So that was Ben-Herman. Thank you very much to Ben-Herman. That was quite an awesome interview. So now I'm just going to move over to my demo side. So I have a tree set up on this side. It's a juniper, so there's not a lot of branches to reach. A few different options that I just want to look at. So I'm going to move over to that side now. So just give me a couple of seconds so I can just unhook myself from all the cabling that's attached to the Zoom meeting and the other monitoring stuff. So just hold on 1 second. Let's do this side. Sorry, I just need to step in front of the camera. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I wanted to work on this tree today. This tree's been with me for a few months now. I think it's almost a year. I'm looking after this tree for somebody else, and they have styled it. So as you can see, there's a bit of work done on this. So there's a bit of dead wood that was carved out on this side, and there's wires on the tree. But I've actually thought of restyling the tree a bit, because this branch is so low and these two are already fixed in place, so they're not going to bend easily. So I thought I'll take you guys through that progress. So we have a few that are placed a bit low on the tree that I might be removing. So there's literally these smaller twigs over here. It's not doing anything to the design. So what I'll do is I'll remove these smaller branches on this side. There's 3 of them here, and there's one small one over here. As you can, I'm just going to turn it to your side. So if you look at this branch over here, it's a long branch, and there's just a bit of growth on this end. So it's not going to develop into a big branch very soon. So the thing that you need to keep in mind whenever you're styling trees like this from nursery stock is that these smaller branches will always be dominated by the bigger branches on the tree. So these other branches will draw a lot more energy than something like this. So for you to develop a small branch like this, it takes some time, and it's not going to be the easiest thing to redo. So let me show you guys what branches I'll be removing, and then I'll just be applying some wire onto the branches that remain. And so I'm just going to remove these, but what I do is I don't remove them all the way up against the trunk of the tree. So I just leave a bit of a stump. Let me just remove this. So let me do this one. So here's another one. It's another example of those type of branches. So you'll see the branch over here, and it literally has this one growing leaf part on here, and the rest of the thing is dead. So, and it's also hanging down. So it's not going to develop into a big branch. So I'm just going to remove that one as well. That's that one. And then we have these three over here. These are quite big, so let me just see. So I have this one. I'm going to use this one, has some growth on there. Okay, this one is here. Okay. Okay, figured it out. So I'm going to remove this one, because this one and the one at the other end is shorties as well, and puts in there, but it's not a lot of space there, so let's just remove that one. The shorties over here, chuck them to the side. Okay, so now I'm going to start applying the wires. So first of all, I'm going to wire this branch over here, just getting the right over here. So what I normally do, just to test that the wire is thick enough to bend the branch, is I just hold it here and I press down, and if that branch bends before the wire bends, then it will work. So let's apply this one over here, and then once again I'm not going to apply it all the way into the finer branches, but I'll apply it as far as possible, because it's going into winter now, and as we get into summer next year, or at the end of the year, these just burn the branches as it heats up. So the chances of you losing the branches will be quite big. So what I normally do is I just wire to almost the end of the wire, and that just gives you place to play with. So I'm not going to wire the smaller branches. I'm just going to focus on getting the main branches into place so that I can actually bend those. And then if I see fit to I'll cut back some of the growth. Not the best time to cut back now, because as you heard even Ben-Herman mention earlier, is that you want before winter sets in, because as soon as winter sets in, the younger growth is going to die off. And this has already started growing in some of the older growth. So what I'll do now is I'll wire these two with the same wire, that one, those two with the same wire. So just gauge over here. Okay, let's use this one over here. It's going to be, that's actually too thick for that wire. Just see if this one will hold. Yeah, this one will definitely hold. Okay, so I'm going to move over that way. Okay, so you're applying the wire to these two branches here. And what you try and do is, whenever you're wiring these smaller branches, is to actually get the wire anchor onto another branch so that it doesn't seesaw. And also you want it to go around the trunk at least once, so that it carries the weight of the wire over the branch. Instead of times, if you wire too loosely and you bend on this side, by bending this branch, it will cause a seesaw effect, and it will either break this branch off, or as soon as you set this branch, that branch will move, and it will be a back and forth moving the whole time. So just make sure that you wrap wire around the trunk a few times before you actually go onto the branch, so that you actually have some strength in the wire so it doesn't seesaw. Okay, let's do this. Go into this one. So that one, what wire to put onto this split over here. So I'm going to wire the splits as well, because then I'll set all of those branches in place, and then I know next time I can work on the smaller branches and work on refining the tree. The first step is primary branches in place, and as soon as that's set, you can move on to the secondary and tertiary branches. Applying the wire, make sure you apply it as tight as possible, because you want the bark to kind of have an indentation where the wire was, but you don't want it to bite in. So there's a fine line between wiring too tight, because then eventually your is going to cut into the bark faster, and wiring too loosely, when your tree is the wire is never going to hold, and the tree is eventually just going to go back to where it was, because there was no scarring caused around the wound, and also it didn't heal over the wire, so it just flops around. So it's just these two branches that I need to wire now. I might just use this wire over there. This one is thick enough. Just see, it's thick enough for that. It will be thick enough for this one. Okay, so you always need to just figure out if I'm twisting the branch that way or in the opposite way, so that you can wire the tree properly, so that that actually tightens as you bend the branch into place. So you have to plan what you want to do with the tree up front. So the part that you guys are not seeing is actually out the day before, looking at all the options, seeing what I can do with the tree before I actually start styling, because once you start styling and removing branches, you can't put them back. The branches to develop in that area where you remove them, it's going to set your tree back a few years or a few growing seasons. So it's easier to work with a plan in mind and take the tree through the steps of the development, and also don't try and style the entire tree within one go, because you might find that the bend into all the places that you want it to bend, and also if you make mistakes and if there's something else that you think would work better, there's always some time to adapt. And if you style the entire tree at once, you might just damage to keep in mind is that you're putting the tree under a lot of stress when you are actually styling the tree, and that could be bad for the tree if you put it in too much pressure at the wrong times. So try and plan your stylings. Just need to get this wire over here so we can get this branch into place. Okay, and as you guys heard from Ben-Herman earlier, is that he's also been experimenting with stone pines. So if I think there's 3 videos now on my YouTube channel that I've actually mentioned stone pines, and there's actually 2 trees that I've styled, and I've been working on them for the past few years. So it's always good to hear that other people are also experimenting with trees, and that they also find the same results that you're finding. So you're not isolated, so that makes the effort a lot, make you appreciate the effort that you're putting in a lot more, because trees are expensive, and sometimes I feel it's easier just comparing somebody else's results with what you have, that you know what you can do going forth, instead of struggling on your own trying to figure out, because there are a few books that are published on trees in South Africa, but stone pines are mentioned in any of them, because a lot of people have different opinions on stone pines, and I know that there's quite a few guys that worked on stone pines that haven't received any good results, so they tend to just shove the tree into the garden and leave them all together, because obviously it doesn't pay working on a tree if you're not getting the results that you want. So yeah, So I'm actually glad that Ben-Herman's stone pines, and I'll actually follow up with him to find out how that's going, because yeah, that's going to be something interesting if we get that working, because then we can start stone pines and actually write a bit more on stone pines as well, because as I mentioned, there's not a lot of literature about that. If there's any and you guys have read it, please let me know so that I can actually read up on it, because it's something that's actually quite interesting, and it would be nice to have some local trees that you can source here and just work on, instead of having to buy expensive trees, especially if you use new things and you're new to bonsai. I think it's quite cool to have some trees to work on, especially if it's not something that you have to worry about too much, because you don't want to spend a lot of money and kill a tree. Ben-Herman has mentioned that he has lost a few black pines, which is sad, because I think the smaller ones go for like 300, 400 rand, and they're not that developed at all. They're like 3 or 4 years old. Yeah, I don't want to spend that money, especially on younger trees. So that's why you go to auctions, trees over there at bargain prices. But this year, obviously with lockdown, there hasn't been a lot of auctions, so a lot of us are sad about that, but hopefully there will be some light at the end of this tunnel. So I'm almost done with this branch on this side, and I'll move over to the other branch on the other side, trying to go through this tree as quickly as possible. There we go. And just this one, and there's 3 more branches. It's not a lot of branches. There we go. Sorry for all the heavy breathing, but I'm actually twisting this wire on quite tight, so you guys do pick up all the sounds and stuff coming through the microphone. So I also changed up microphones for this demo. Last week I tried a lapel mic. It just kept on popping, obviously, and as you turn your head away from the microphone you lose the sound, and with headsets they stay the same distance away from mouth. So I'm glad I could actually change up microphones as well. There we go. So I'm running out of wire, guys. So I'm just glad that actually the E is allowed to operate again in South Africa. So I might be able to go out and buy myself some more wire before next week, because I use a lot of these wires for my demo. And this week I've actually just went into all the wires that I've used previously, and I just straightened them up. So that's actually quite nice. So then I don't have to spend all my wires on demo trees. But they are my own trees, so I don't mind using the wires. It's just they're quite pricey. That one's done. This one's done. I might just add more wire on this one. So what happens is they actually quite flexible, and you can add a lot of dramatic movement in there. And if they crack or the branch separates from the bark, they tend to just heal over and grow. So they trees, and they don't mind being worked on. And you can have quite cool designs as you style them, because they quite flexible and they give you a lot of options. So I like options. So let's do it from here. Okay, so I'm going to wire this one in. So I'm almost done with this one. Then I'll start placing the branches. I'll show you guys how that goes. And then once again, this week I forgot to take a before photo. Just so keen to start that I actually forget to the trees, so that you can have a before and after photo. So I'll keep that in mind for next week. It's actually quite nice to see how it will look before you started styling it and how it came out once you were done with it. Just gives you some idea. Styling trees is easier than actually clipping growing. So that's also a method that I have mentioned a few times. I just like working on nursery trees because they just give me so much pleasure. You can just style them, move them around, and you can work on them immediately. If you're growing from a seed or from a cutting, you have to wait a couple of years and develop something before you actually selling those trees. So I like going to nurseries and looking for new trees. And even Ben-Herman mentioned that once you start going to nurseries, almost never stops. Like I came from a nursery without having a plant in my hand, so I just tend to avoid them altogether nowadays, because you end up having so much trees that you have to water and take care of, that it just becomes too much and it becomes a full-time job. And as soon as something takes that much time and energy, you tend to lose interest. So I try and balance the urge to working on older trees and maintaining them a lot more than I did in the past. In the past, it was just I just got a lot of trees of development and I worked on them. But now I actually focus on spending time with the trees that I have and developing them. So you guys will see I don't have a lot of new trees. Like all the trees in my blogs and videos are all the same trees, just different techniques and styles that I'm doing on them. That just helps. Okay. So now this tree is actually too high. I'm struggling to get to the branches. I'm almost standing on my toes now. But I'll get to it. And I just need to stop here and use a smaller wire. Let's apply this one. Let's do this. Okay, almost done here. There we go. And then just 2 more branches to go, and then I'll start styling this tree. So let's do this long shoot. All the wires just fell over. So these are all my offcuts that I actually just straighten up, because that just saves me a lot of wire. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm just going to style the main branches on this tree, not go into detail work, because that'll be for next season. I'm actually just giving the tree some time to recover before I do any other work. So these branches are done. So there's 2 more left. This one and this one over here. And there's the smallest branch over here. I'll wire this one and that one together. That's just going to be the easiest, so that I can anchor. So I can actually do those 2. Okay, got it. I'll do the big one first. I'm going to use quite a thick edge for this branch because I'm going to bend it quite far forward, so I'm going to need all the holding strength that I can get. Just get this around this, get that in there. Okay, almost done. Almost all the way to the top. I'm just going to stop close to the top. I'm not going to go all the way to this. So it would be up and just add smaller gauge of wire in here, but if you're careful, you can use the same gauge all the way through. It just tends to snap the branch if you're not careful. So now I'll do the two smaller branches over here. That's feels like that gauge is way too big for that branch. I'll just see if I can use this, yeah, smaller one over here. Okay, let's get in here. Okay, so that's done. I'm going to stop there. Okay, so I think all the branches are wired now. Let's just double check all of them. Yes, they're all in place. Start off with this one. So what I want to do with this one is I actually just want to bring it up a bit closer, so it looks like it's actually going to bring this up a bit closer and then bend it back out down, so that it looks like this is your primary branch. So let me do that. Bend it up and then out, up and out. Looks like that wire is not thick enough to hold that branch, so I'm going to add another one on there. So you can add on wires if you don't have wires that's thick enough to hold the branch, but ideally you would want a wire that's thick enough to hold the tree. And with copper wires it's actually way easier, because copper wires are stronger. It's just I don't have any copper wires now, so now I just have to double up on wires. There we go. I'll just cut it off here because it's going to be too thick for the rest of the branch. There we go. So if that works now. Yes, that's better. So I'm going to try. So if you look at this branch over here, it has it in forward. So what I'll do with this one is I'll bend it in and get it to go with that branch. So I have the same movement in the entire tree. You don't want the one part to have a different flow, because it's one tree. You want it to have more or less the same feel. Okay, so I'm going to put that over there so it looks like this is part of that tree over there. A bit more straight and then down. Okay, there we go. So I might just wire these two branches over here. Might just do the one, because I don't want to wire any small branches, so they might just die off. Let me just do this one. It's just the one. I'm just looking for the right place to start off with this wire. Okay, there we go. And also you want to make sure that you don't grab any of the foliage in the wires, because then they're just going to tear off, and that just causes damage to the tree. let's remove that. Here we go. Let's just get this branch into place. Here we go. Oh, the rest of the branches are all fine. The other branches will obviously grow up, but that's not a problem. We can style them later on. As I mentioned, we just want to get this first into place. So now we have this bend in this trunk here. I just want to actually bend this a bit more back. I have to bend it quite a bit. And then movement as the other one. So there you can see the 3 branches. So what I did is I applied this movement here so that the tree actually does the same bend and then go out, as this is now my second branch. Then I'm just going to angle in the branches over here, which I hopefully will fill up the design later on. Just add in some. It will still need to thicken up a lot more, but at least then we have some growth on that side. And then we have our back branch over here. So now what I've done is then I have a back branch over here. I'm going to sit slightly higher. Bring this closer to the side. A bit more. Take it up. So it's always nice to add in movement. So if you wanted to go left, go right, and then bend it to the left to the tree. Actually, do this. Okay, now so this first part of the tree is set. I'll just leave these dangling tips for now. This branch over here. I'm going to bring this down. It's always nice to bring the branches down. The tree looks a bit more mature. I'm actually going to take this branch. I'm going to bring this one a bit more forward. This one in on this side over here. Because otherwise it's all in your face. Going to use bend it a bit more. You know what, this is not working for me, so I'll rather remove that branch because it's too close to the other one. So I'll remove this one. Makes sense having a branch here. I'm just looking at it now. And I'll remove this one, and once again I'll just leave a stump, and then I'll rather bring this branch down into play here, so it looks a bit more natural. Here we go. It fills up this gap better than the previous branch. Yeah, that's a lot better. So you want to try and keep the same movement throughout the tree. You don't want the one branch to be more dramatic than the other one. So try and get the same bends in all of the branches, so they look like they've all actually came through the same experience, because it just adds a bit more realistic characteristics to the tree. Okay, let's bend this one down. So also by adding in movement, shortening the branches as well, because you want your branches to become smaller and smaller and shorter. as you go up the tree. And this is where the movement helps a lot, because now you can make your trees nice and compact that I can remove now. That's there. I'm going to try and give this a bit more movement. As these grows out, it will actually fall into place there. Let's go with this one. And then while you're at it, you can remove any branches that's growing straight down, because they're not going to do anything, or remove of foliage that might be in the tree. There we go. Okay, branch over there, this one over there. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in the apex of the tree from here. So all those smaller branches are all done now. So now the main thing would be to get this apex around to this side over here. So I might just put this so that I can actually make space for the apex to come down in. Forward, back, and then a bit forward again. Just more or less at the same level.